was known as Dr.Green. Who he actually was Dr. Mengele Josef Mengele from the concentration camps in Germany.
The Rockefeller Foundation funded the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, including the work of Ernst Rudin, a leading psychiatrist who became an architect and prime director of the murderous medical experimentation programs conducted on thousands of Jews, Gypsies, and others. American money also endowed the work of Ottmar Verschuer, who headed the Institute of Anthropology, Human Heredity, and Eugenics. He wrote in his eugenics journal that Germany's war would yield a total solution to the German problem. Verschuer had a longtime assistant. His name was Josef Mengele. On May 30th, 1943, Mengele arrived at Auschwitz. Verschuer notified the German Research Society. My assistant, Dr. Josef Mengele, MD, PhD, joined me in this branch of research. He is presently employed as captain and camp physician in the Auschwitz concentration camp. Anthropological testing of the most diverse racial groups in this concentration camp is being carried out with the permission of SS Reichsfuhrer Himmler. Mengele began searching the boxcar arrivals for twins. When he found them, he performed beastly experiments, scrupulously wrote up the reports, and sent paperwork back to Verschuer's Institute for evaluation. Often cadavers, eyes, and other body parts were dispatched to Berlin's eugenic institutes. Several doctors who had been sent to Auschwitz for aiding Jews worked as his assistants and described him thus. His experiments and observations were carried out in an abnormal fashion. When he made transfusions, he purposely used incorrect blood types. He would inject substances and then ignore the results.
In June 2001, we were invited for a conference in Berlin held by the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute, the scientific institute that was in charge of our experiments. They were in charge of Mengele.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the name of the Max Planck Society and in my own name, I want to tell you how deeply I regret that you had to suffer so terribly under the crimes inflicted upon you by German researchers in the service of a perverted ideology. As German scientist, I feel shame and I feel guilt about all this.
We had no idea that Dr. Merkel would ask us, the twins, for forgiveness.
And I want to ask you, and through you, all such victims, for forgiving for all that has been done to you. We are very, very sorry.
I thought that the whole world was a concentration camp. And I concentrated on one single thing, how to survive one more day.
And they found among a few thousand survivors a large group of twins. Twins who underwent inhuman medical experiments at the hands of Dr. Josef Mengele, the camp surgeon at Auschwitz, who was known as the Angel of Death.
I grew up in Transylvania with my father, my mother, two older sisters, and my twin sister Miriam. When I was 10 years old, I was sent with my family to Auschwitz, Birkenau concentration camp. Our train was pulling in, and then it stopped. We were here waiting for a very, very long time in the track. And then finally the doors opened. My mother grabbed my twin sister and me by the hand. hoping that as long as she could hold on to us, that she could protect us. I noticed groups of people being led away, and as I was looking around, I suddenly realized my daddy and my two older sisters were gone. They were not with us. And then, as we were being pulled in that direction, I looked back. It was the first night. We were marched to the barracks. I just been ripped apart from my whole family, and it was only Miriam and me. We went to the latrine. And when we entered the place, there on the filthy floor were the scattered corpses of 3 children. Their bodies were naked and shriveled, and their eyes were wide open, looking at me. And I was very angry with them. So I looked at them and I said, why did you permit yourself to die?
For those who are interested in genetic research, Mengele was regarded at the forefront of German science. Now, if you have people whom you perceive to be racially inferior at your disposal, and they can be made subservient to the creation of an ideal race, then you feel empowered to pursue that, and you feel grateful for the environment which allows you to pursue it.
Dr. Mengele was like drunk with the possibilities that were granted to him to find guinea pigs on healthy human beings and to do whatever he wanted to.
They struck me down and they took the blood by force.
The reason they experimented on twins is because you have a wonderful control group. If you deal with identical twins, you can say that their biological makeup is identical, their sociological makeup is virtually identical. So you have one factor, which is the factor that you introduce into the equation. And Mengele's ambition was equal to his ruthlessness.
And as I was crawling, fading in and out of consciousness, I would keep telling myself, I must survive. I must survive. Would I have died, Miriam would have been taken immediately to Mengele's lab, killed with a phenol injection to the heart. They would compare the size of my eye to my twin sister and then compare it to charts. The shape of the eye, the color of the eye, for hours and hours. They would compare the size of the skull, and they had these very heavy and cold instruments that they would press against my skull.
Can you read any of these?
There is nothing on the screen. There is only the screen is disappeared.
But do you see a white light straight ahead?
It was very little light.